Hello. Welcome to all of you who are watching this later, your replay, which will be most of you. My name is Corey. If this is your first time with Existential Sunday, what you're watching is a broadcast where I engage in the same kind of conversations or talks or ideas, wrestlings that I do on the podcast. It's also called Existential, which if you're not subscribed to, you can do so today. It's some great conversations that we have there. This is a space for folks that are processing deconstruction or decolonizing of their worldview. I come from the Christian tradition. I speak from there quite a bit. Today, I'm going to speak, I don't really know from where, grief. Today, I'm going to do the thing that, like, when I worked at church, I thought I wanted white evangelical pastors and church leaders to do. Actually, I know I wanted them to do it. Today, I'm going to be a little scattered and sad, not polished, not poetic. Today, I'm going to lead with grief. Today, I'm not really worried about whether or not you share it or don't share it or whatever the hell you do with it. I actually don't care. I remember what it felt like to carry grief into Sunday morning and feel alone in that grief. Probably said that to y'all before. Some of you probably went to church this morning or will go to church or came home from church or whatever, or you're watching this after you went to church and you probably grieved by yourself. There's a trial happening in Minnesota for the murder of George Floyd, which the whole world witnessed. I haven't followed the trial very closely because a couple reasons. One, I don't really want to put myself through the sort of agony of watching the gaslighting that will happen during this trial. From what I understand, has already happened during the trial. There is, and by the way, I am having to be away, so I'm recording this on Friday. So if the trial is over by the time this comes out, then that's what that is. But as of now, there's a trial happening that I haven't been able to watch because I don't want to. Myself and many other Black folks will tell you that there is no confidence that George Floyd's murderer, Derek Chauvin, however you say his name, will see a day in jail, in prison. Which is, by the way, why the Black Lives Matter movement began. Let me remind you, the Black Lives Matter movement didn't begin simply because Trayvon Martin was shot, but because George Zimmerman was exonerated. It wasn't simply that Rodney King was beat half to death by police in 1992, I believe it was, with billy clubs that really held most of the outrage. It was the fact that every one of those police officers walked. And just so you are aware, the reason why Black folks were excited to see O.J. Simpson get away with murder was because it was the first time Black folks saw what it meant, what Black folks saw like a Black man treated like he was white. guess I should say like he was a white police officer. Also in Minnesota, there was a 61-year-old white man who was armed and acting erratically. My wife watched this video. She's been talking about it quite a bit this week. In the same town where George Floyd was murdered, and now Dante Wright, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old boy, 1 year older than my oldest daughter, was shot over an air freshener. Well, ultimately, let's be fair, he was not shot over the air freshener, but he was pulled over an air freshener, and he called his mother, much like my daughter called her mom this week when she got pulled over and was shaking and sweating and scared. Which is natural. I mean, we get scared when police are there, but I think there's a little bit of extra juice in that fear when you're Black. But in this same Minnesota, same state, same soil, same area, where George Floyd was murdered with a knee on the back of his neck, where Dante Wright was shot in front of his girlfriend, 61-year-old white man wielding a gun, threatening to shoot police officers, was handled with care. Yeah. And just about every mass shooter in the history of the United States since I've been alive has been taken alive, unless they decided to kill themselves. So what am I saying to you? Right? I'm processing and I'm lamenting, I'm naming the injustice that exists for Black people. I'm naming that 13-year-old Black and brown people, like Adam Toledo, 13, let me say this again, 13 years old, 13 in Chicago in March, empty-handed, hands up, shot and killed by the police in Chicago. I don't have space in my life, in my consciousness, in my work, to debate with people anymore, to listen to people anymore who want to talk about what these people did to deserve death. Because what these people did to deserve death, if we really want to be honest with it, they did deserve it in America. In the United States, they deserved it because they're not white. The United States continues to tell Black and brown people that you deserve death simply because you are not white. And I wear this across my chest, stop shooting us. And I was at a golf course one time with this shirt on. This older white man looked at me and he said, "Nice shirt. Simple request." And I thought, yeah, you would think it's a simple request. It should be a simple request, but it's not. I want to encourage you to go and read the book End of Policing so you understand a little bit of what I'm about to reference about why it's so hard to simply stop shooting us. Damn near impossible in this country. Because the origins of why we have police are rooted in anti-Blackness. This idea, especially in the suburbs, where most of our mega churches are, where most of today people are singing lovely songs and preaching lovely sermons, and they feel safe from Black people because that is what the police are supposed to do, keep white people safe from Black people, which is why when white people are violent, they are not killed by the police. But when Black folks seem threatening, the natural, instinctual, bodily response of those police officers who have been trained in a white supremacist system is to automatically, by default, go into what your origins are, which is to protect white people from Black and brown people. When the lizard brain kicks in, when your fight, flight, or freeze kicks in, and you're a police officer, I don't care if you're Black or brown, you're a police officer, your training kicks in. Now, again, you don't have to take my word for it. Go look at go look at where the training comes from for police, where policing to begin with comes from. Go read about it. Go look at it for yourself. I'm not gonna. You can get in the comments and I'll offer some resources if you guys want to have some good faith conversations. I actually don't even know where to tell you to have that because it ain't on this post today. Because I'm not going to be lectured for my grief by people who cannot understand or don't know what it is to carry this grief, to existentially carry the grief of being Black in a police state. To drive by police officers and have them turn their head like you're Jennifer Lopez walking by them. To just automatically, because I'm driving by and I'm Black, it's just make sure that I do my job. The instinct is he's Black. So we have to make sure he's okay. Make sure he's not going to hurt none of these suburban white folks that we're charged to keep safe. But what about the police that aren't in suburbs? Yeah, they're trying to make sure that those folks don't come out to the suburbs. Yeah. We had a mass shooting in Indianapolis. 8 people were killed, not including the mass murderer who killed himself. The police didn't stop that. The idea of police didn't stop that. So when we start talking about abolishing and ending the police, this is the stuff that comes up. Well, who will keep us safe? Who do this and do blah, 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 blah. We have to reimagine something different. And if you're a person watching this, which probably means you're a person of conscientious person. If you're a person watching this, you're a person of faith, come from some sort of faith, or especially like a Christian tradition. I don't understand a Christianity that is not on the front lines of this moment in history. I don't understand it. I don't understand a Christianity that is not first in line to talk at minimum about reforms, which don't work, but at minimum about reform. Because if you even start at the reform and really actually do your work, you'll find yourself following that path to, wait a minute, we need a whole new way of being when it comes to how we police, especially Black and brown people. And maybe that's the thread we pull on that helps us become less of a white supremacist state. Maybe that pillar of militarized police, maybe removing that pillar would begin to change some of the anti-Blackness that is so prevalent in the United States. I grieve for the families of Adam Toledo and Dante Wright. I grieve for the family of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Of Tamir Rice, of Ahmaud Arbery, of Sandra Bland, of Nina Pop. I grieve for every one of those families who, every time there's another extrajudicious killing of a Black or brown body, they are reminded of their own loved ones who are no longer here. And the sad thing is, I do some consulting, coaching, anti-racism coaching. And sometimes I do it with churches. And when I'm talking to these churches about how do you engage in this, like how do you use your moment, I can't think of the term that I'm looking for right now, but the moment that you have eyeballs and ears listening to you on Sunday mornings, how do you use Sunday to be a vehicle for discussing justice? And how do you do it, right? Because after George Floyd, all the churches in America wanted to be anti-racist. And I always say this: there will be another one. There will be another incident where the police kill an unarmed Black citizen, an unarmed Black child. There will be another one. And every time there's another one, all of the families and the relatives who have lost loved ones have to live it again. And every Black person in America has to live it again. And every Black person in America has to sort of emotionally choose between callousness that says, oh, well, this is what it means to be Black in America, and deep, overwhelming grief. I'm going to tell you a story that I actually wrestled with telling you, and I've decided I'm going to tell it anyway. I had an extremely manic episode about a week ago in a hotel with my wife and my daughter. I could not stop this from freaking out. I mean, freaking out. This was one of the scariest moments of my life. My wife was there with me, and I couldn't get the panicking to stop. I couldn't stop. I couldn't settle in. I just couldn't. I just could not do it. Right. And I had all these thoughts about folks that I had known about that had just had a psychotic snap. And I was just afraid. I was afraid for and of myself, which is a really, 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 really shitty place to be. But what's shittier than where I was when I, with these crazy eyes, looked at my wife and said, babe, I'm scared. I need help. Can you call someone? And she looked back at me with equally scared eyes and said, no, I can't. I'm not going to have the police show up and see you, a 6'3" Black man with locks, having a manic episode, and they kill you in front of me and your daughter. So we fought through it together. Well, she fought through it with me. She helped me through it. I would have loved to have gone to the hospital where I would have maybe felt safe, maybe been able to calm down, maybe not had for 3 days after that this overwhelming, terrifying feeling. But in that moment when we actually needed help, because of the fact that we need t-shirts like this when we're Black, my wife didn't feel safe calling for help. Now you tell me. Is that a system? Is that a way? Is that a protecting and serving of the entire community? Well, the fear of calling is your issue. Okay, yeah, it is. It is. It is. It is our issue. You're right. It is. It's 100% our issue. And I guess it's why folks like myself have to lament it. And keep crying out, keep saying the same shit over and over and over again, and keep having white folks get mad, and relatives of police officers and police officers themselves be mad and come back and lash out because this is our issue. And I won't stop. There was this term that is this term that the megachurches use when it comes to what are we going to decide to talk about? What are we going to decide is something that we want to risk our megachurch over? And this term is, what is a hill that you're willing to die on? I don't know what the hell hill the megachurch is willing to die on, to be honest with you. But this hill, for me, is one that I will die on. Hopefully old and gray. Hopefully, surrounded by my loved ones. Ideally surrounded by my loved ones and on a golf course would be amazing to go that way. But however I go, I will go with this passion burning in me that Black Lives Matter. And that God, the creator of all things, the divine, cares deeply about the plight of the oppressed. And that is the only spirituality that I have any interest in. And to be honest with you, it is really the only spirituality that truly and authentically gets to the roots of where spirituality even comes from to begin with. This self-help shit that you're hearing on Sunday mornings is not the deeply spiritual stuff. Stop trying to help yourself and start trying to help the marginalized people around you. Grace and peace until